Community Beacon, Fridays at 6:30 EST, with your hosts Michaeldseville and Joel Simmons. A channel whose focus is liberty. A place where the lessons discussed and taught will create openings to a more open and freer mindset. A mindset where you may reach the height of your potential and excel. Here are your hosts, Mike and Joel.
It seems like it's actually just me today. No, I'm joking. The brother dropped out of the video. I'm sure he'll be jumping back in shortly. Whenever we have these episodes of technical difficulties or something, it's always fire. So appreciate you all for checking in the community beacon. I am your host, Michael Seville. On the other side of the camera, he's back. He's back, everybody. We got Mr. Joel Simmons of the Tenacity Foundation at another location. The brother's always in a different location, so he's moving. I definitely like that he takes the time out to make sure these things get done. There's a lot of moving parts. We're both out here being productive, doing the best that we can with what we have. What's going on, brother? I saw you dropped off. I said normally when we have these type of situations, the show tends to be extremely in depth. So I'm sure this will be of not this won't disappoint.
I appreciate it, man. Good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, man. It's nice to be a co-host with the real estate king business model, Michael Seville. Grateful to be here. Also, even more important than those other titles, friend and brother. Yeah, much more important. I'm out here in Dallas, man, right in the middle of a conference, getting some good stuff, feeding my mind. And it's crazy, man, because like I'm even feeding my soul a little bit here too, you know. So it's been some real good things, been able to unlock a few things. And I always think about this. I tell your story a lot of times about your mentor and how he had mentioned to you that he'll spend $10,000 to learn one thing.
It doesn't take much more than one thing to change a person's life. I mean, it's incredible how that works, especially and that's interesting that you brought that up because that all goes into my thought process on what we would talk about in the show. And I was thinking about time, intention, and focus. I was thinking about time, intention, and focus, and it's interesting that you brought that up because one of the things I was thinking about was whatever we tend to focus on and we're intentional about, it expands. And you can go either way with it. And what I've noticed or I've observed in people who tend to have a scarcity mindset or things just aren't going right is what they are focused on. And this morning I was leaving the gym. I went to go grab some dog food, and on the way out there was a guy who seemed like he was pretty he was a little out of sorts. And we both exchanged glances and salutations, and he said, "You know what? I just I'm like, life is." He kind of was having a negative outlook on life. I'm like, "Man, brother, what's going on?" I didn't know this guy from Adam. And he said, I got to get new pants. He said, I got to get new pants. He said, I put my pants in the dryer and there's a whole bunch of lint on these pants. So now, just got to do it. Just got to go get new pants. And, I'm in my positive outlook. Just came out the gym. I told a brother earlier, I took all the muscles this morning. So I'm leaving the gym. I'm in a good mood. We had a really good workout, considering that I felt as if I didn't want to go. And I said, well, brother, life is lifing. And he said, I just don't see why it always has to be this negative thing. Now, my thought process was you could take it and put it in the positive, like just to be blessed that you are able to go out and purchase new pants because there's lint on them. Because I've been around people who had holes in the pants, so had to keep sewing the pants together. My father talks about that as a young growing up. Like how they when they bought a pair of pants was a big thing because you didn't know when you were going to get another pair. and you use those pants almost every day. And when they started to fall apart, because he knows how to sew, which I think is a lost art for him, because I for darn sure don't know how to sew pants back together. And he sews his pants back together. You know, if something happens to his pants, he has the capability of doing it. But that came out of necessity. Now, for a person to just be able to wake up in the morning and to say, "Hey, I have too much lint on my pants," I would have probably went and got the lint roller to take it off, or if I was even interested in it. But to be able to go buy it, I thought that was a blessing. And so, that kind of started off as a theme this morning. And then I was on social media perusing. I like to go through, and me personally, there's so much going on. I just like to like people's stuff. It's free. It's there. Some of it is great information. I think I liked one of your posts this morning where you were talking about the best, and I actually got a chance to check out your "It Starts with Me" episode on Wednesday as well, which I thought was a really good episode. I want anybody to go back in there and check it out. I definitely want to have a discussion on it. But it was a dope episode. Uh, but it's like, so I'm going through and I'm finding all these positive things, and then I got a phone call, and a person is telling me about all these negative things, and so the thought came to mind. I said, "There's really like two different worlds going on." Like, and probably more than that. But I mean, in regards to me, juxtaposed to the people on the other side of I'm having a conversation with another person. There's probably hundreds of different worlds. But your world is almost determined about what you decide to be intentional about and what you decide to focus on. And it's interesting how our minds can start to create this story about what's going on in our lives just based on that, just based on these one things. You spoke about Jim. Some people would say, "Man, I went to this conference. I spent $10,000 and I only came home with one thing. I mean, I only had to be there for one day or for 1 hour because I only got one thing out of this conference, right?" And then you got the other side, which is filled with possibilities, where Jim, he intentionally goes there, focused on just finding one thing that he could take and implement into his business. I remember another strategy he uses was that he says, when I go to, because it's real estate and he trades real estate, and he says, when I go to these different real estate conferences, he said, my intention is that I want to come out at least $5,000. I want to add $5,000 to my net worth. I don't care how I do that. So maybe that might be me figuring out how to get a piece of land some kind of way. Maybe it might be me consulting somebody for a certain amount of time, or maybe it might be me selling a piece of property that I no longer want or need. It's just $5,000, as opposed to going to these conferences and saying, and this happens. I'm wondering where everyone stays in this different in the like what category you're in. I see people who go to a conference and try to take down all the information. They take it all down. Like, hey, just writing, and they're just going, and they got it. They just have all this information and go back and don't implement anything because it can be overwhelming to get all that information. Then you have people like Jim who goes and they get one piece of information and say, I'm going to spend the next 90 days putting this into my repertoire, whatever that tip strategy is. I'm going to spend the next 90 days implementing this, and to where it just becomes easy and just becomes a part of my business and it's a habit, and I don't even think about it anymore. So I'm curious with this conference, with this information, brother, and just what your thoughts are on this intention and focus.
Mm. Yeah, I mean that's good. I'd like to highlight something that you said, and maybe, if you will, accept this to change some of that around. Because even as you were speaking, I can hear it coming out of you, and you started talking about focus a whole lot. So I was just thinking, for an acronym, what if we, instead of time, intention, focus, we did focus, intention, time? And it was just kind of funny because as I was thinking about that, you were talking about focus, and then you started talking about getting into the gym and how this came about. And I'm like, man, you got to get fit. You got to get fit. and you got to stay fit, which means you got to be focused, intentional, and I'm interested in seeing, how you lay out your time, piece of it. And I agree with you 100% because, being here in this event, there's been a different aura for me
Hmm.
personally. I mean, I've been to a few events, and I'm talking to a guy. Ended up sharing a room with a guy, part of my team, extended team. I'm sharing a room with him. I just met him. Nice guy, real good guy, banker, you know. And he was asking me about it, and I said, "Listen, it's not all inside of the room. It's not all on the stage, and you got to understand that. You got to understand that it's everywhere. The environment is rich. If I toss a rock at any point in time, I may hit what I'm looking for, you know, and that's me intentionally looking for what I need. So I mean, you do have to have some type of focus. You have to come in with a certain type of thought that, I'm here to get what I need. And if you come in with I'm here to get what I need, and I told a young man yesterday, I said, God will provide. And I said, some people they say the universe, but I'm gonna tell you how I believe. I believe it's God. You can say whatever you want to say now, you know, but God will provide me with exactly what I'm looking for because that is my intention. It's not just my intention, it's my expectation. My expectation. I'm here because I believe that this is where the Lord wants me to be at this moment in time, or at the very least, this is what He'll allow me to do within the time frame that He has given me. And that's totally different, right? This is not me saying, "Hey, God told me to do this." Too many people they take that phrase and they want to put "God told me" in front of it, and it's not always true. It's not always true. God ain't speaking to everybody. Sometimes that's just their own personal thought and they attribute it to God. And I'm not saying take anything away from God, but sometimes it's God is allowing you to just be you. And in that, give him the glory. That's totally different than saying, "Hey, Jesus knocked on my door last night and said, I need to tell you this. You need to go here," because Jesus ain't knocking on nobody's door. But I digress.
I love it. You see me smiling. I love it when the
Yeah,
brother gets into it.
I, I digress because that's going to take us somewhere else. And that's not the intent of this conversation. It's about what we're gaining from the experiences, the environments, the people, the places that we introduce ourselves into, and the focus and the time that we're spending in those environments. And for me, this was a big thing for me. It wasn't exactly how I saw it coming. I got something when I walked out of a room and I went up to somebody and I began to speak with them, and they began to speak with me. They began to compliment me. And I returned and said something to them. And the words that I said to them, check this out, bro. The words I said to them, they said, that was for me. And we
Mm.
tapped hands. And when we tapped hands, my heart said, that was for me. And I said, great day in the morning. I said that,
Uh-huh.
not them. I said it. But it was the fact that they brought the way that the conversation just, it was so humble and it was just, and everything. So every bit that they gave to me and every bit that I gave to them ended up being in these couple of words I said to them, that I'm following the Lord, not leading.
Hmm.
I'm here to follow him, not lead him. And that thing, that was my word, to follow, not to lead, you know. And I'm not saying that that's anybody else's word, but it was mine. And when I felt it, I knew it. Touched my heart, touched that lady's heart, same time. And then all of a sudden, boom, every single conversation, my focus was on follow, lead, follow, lead. And then every single conversation, I was able to clear out the ambiguity. They're talking, they're talking, and boom, follow, leave, follow, leave. And all of a sudden, I was able to piece together every single speech, every single conversation, every the breadcrumbs. It was almost like someone had sprinkled the breadcrumbs with that glow in the dark material.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the darkness, in the midst of the darkness, I began to see the pathway. And all I had to do was just follow the breadcrumbs.
I love it, brother. I love it. He said, My environment is rich." And we've been talking about this for a while. We've been talking about some of this stuff for a while. And I love the acronym FIT as well: focus, intention, and time. And you said you need to get fit, you need to stay fit, and be fit, right? So I think a lot of us are in the getting. Some of us are in the getting parts of it. I can acknowledge that. I can acknowledge and say that because there's times when I was in the getting part of it, the getting part of the focus, intention, and figuring out what we're doing with our time. And then there was work and staying fit. There's the maintenance phase of what you call it, and then there's a point at which you become, if we go with the gym analogy, you become what they call fat adapted. A lot of us that we go from we start off as sugar adapted, sugar adapted. So every time we burn in something, it's mostly sugar. You're messing with sugar, you're messing with muscle. These are the people that kind of, and really has to do with your liver. That's a whole different part I want to go down to. But after a certain while of getting fit and staying fit, you can become fat adapted. And those are these people that just, they don't have to spend as much time in the gym. They don't have to do as much things because when they go in there, they can be extra focused. They can be extra intentional, and their timing in regards to what they get out of it, it shortens up. They can be in there for 30, 45 minutes, but some people just really do like the gym and they'll stay in there for 2 hours. I loved when you spoke about the young lady as well and how you all had that moment. And then you said that you felt it in your heart where it said that was for me, which kind of leads to a path of where, and it encapsulates this entire conversation, is that the world is simply a mirror of yourself. And what you are going through on the inside and what you are feeling, you tend to project that out and you start to find these different things. This happens in the conversations I was having. There's one particular person, and they're just talking about these things that are happening, this turmoil, this abrasion, this thing that's happening, and I'm listening to this person talk, and I'm understanding that what he's seeing and what he's expressing about what's going on in the outside world is simply an expression of himself. And I know this from because it happens with me. If I'm in a lot of turmoil, I tend to I was seeking a lot of these different things. But when I come into a position of like what you spoke about, just I feel like I'm rich, and rich has nothing to do necessarily with the money. It's just the richness of life. Then all of a sudden, I start to see that in other things and other people outside of me. So I don't really not I don't really, but I think it's awesome that you had that experience and it was almost like it was automatic in regards to the lady and yourself.
It was, it was, and I appreciate you leaving that pause there because I had been there just about the whole day yesterday, all day, and I'm entertaining every single thing. And like I said, the environment is rich. And I think that we all need to put ourselves in rich environments at some point in time. Like I was speaking with the young man, it's like it's not always on the stage. It's not always the keynote speaker. Sometimes it could be the 2 minute speaker, but sometimes it's what you hear around the dinner table. It's what you hear in passing by, and you just have to be ready for it. You have to be ready for it and you have to be in tune. When I saw this lady, I mean, so much has happened, Mike. When I saw this lady, and I like look to her as an example. I've seen her do her speeches on Zoom calls and all these different things. She's a 750, $800,000 lady. She's just very close to millionaire. She's not millionaire just yet. And when I was saying this, I'm saying that's what she makes currently per year.
Right.
So she's definitely a millionaire, maybe a decamillionaire, but that doesn't matter. The things that draw me into people are not necessarily the dollar bill, it's the spirit of the individual.
Amen.
And that was the reason why I felt like, I mean, I waited to speak with her. That's what she was speaking with someone else. And I was like, I'll tell you her name, Christina Guevara. The woman is absolutely amazing. And so she got ready to part with the person she was speaking with. And I was like, Christina. And, she turned around and she, big smile, glad to see me. And we embraced. I gave her a hug, you know, but the conversation was so humble. And it's like, that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for someone to tell me, oh, this, that, and the other, money, 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 money. I've had plenty of those conversations.
Right.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
not attracted to those types of conversations because it's not all about money for me. You know,
Mm-hmm.
having that financial liberty, very huge for me and my family, but I'm not money motivated. And the conversation was so humble, and the words that she used mattered so much that there was an opportunity for vulnerability. And sometimes that's what we have to get, because when you're in a position like Mike is, or a position like myself, and yeah, I'm going to say it. It's not that I'm trying to put myself at a higher level than anybody else, but at some point in time, you have to realize what you're worth, right? I think that that's important. And at the positions that we are at inside of our life, whether anybody recognizes it or not, is that other people want to be like what we are. It doesn't matter what some people think. And this was my realization being around here when, you know, uh, people are walking around and coming up to me just to mention to me their name and shake my hand. And this pressure was on me. Like, people are watching me, they're listening to everything that I'm saying. And to have that moment of vulnerability with somebody, uh, you know, it was priceless. You know, it was priceless. And then for her to say that was for me, and we touched hands just like this, and I felt it. That was for me, and the words were in me. So I guess, sometimes you have to travel many miles to realize what you have is there.
Mm. That's big. I love it. I specifically, oh, I love the entire thing. One of the things you mentioned was about getting around rich environments. And I would even call, I mean, I think any environment, but however, but the exposure. I heard this comedian, he was talking about these neighborhoods that had uh what is it, for like small airplanes. We have one here in Palm Beach. It's called the Aero Club, where people, you can actually land inside of your backyard essentially in these different communities. They have airplane strips, and how a lot of people don't know about these different things. And my mind just went to the exposure, the rich environments, just being able to go out and see it. I would also say that some of us would also be it would help us out to go to see some of these poorer environments, these third world countries. Like actually go there and spend some time to see exactly how rich your life is right now. 99% of people in America who have these phones and all these other different things, when you go to some of these countries and you see the way that they live and have that experience, you can it will start immediately, and that'll show you that there's things outside of yourself. So maybe that's part of it. Like you said, sometimes you have to go ahead, brother.
Just real quick, I want to just a point of clarification for what I meant by rich. I meant as enriched, like the full environments, not as far as monetary. It could be rich spiritually, it could be rich culturally, it can be rich in that sense.
Right.
Does that
I
make
don't even
sense?
I don't even talk about money when I say rich.
Okay, I'm with you then.
So, yeah, but for clarification for the audience, I'm just talking about just an environment. That's why I said you can go to a poor country, you can go to or excuse me, that specifically a third world country, and still see how rich you are. And I think the people in the third world country tend to have a better life than we are because they're so appreciative of what it is that actually makes, to me, what makes things rich. Bob Marley has a interview if you go back and look at him, and they asked him about being rich, and he said, "You think money makes you rich?"
Mm,
He stopped the interview. He was like, "It's not money that makes you rich." So I'm with 1,000% on what you're referring to, or hopefully I thought it was in regards to it. I don't even, like I said, I don't think about money when I'm thinking about actual riches. Um, but a rich environment, I would say, if I just had to simply identify it, I think it has to do with the like you mentioned, brother, the spirit, the like a rich spiritually, the energy that's given off, the positivity, the people that are willing to engage, the people who they're not holding things to within themselves. I've noticed that within real estate. Within real estate, you go to certain brokerage offices and people are just so they don't want to give you any information. You become competition. In these rich environments, it's more collaborative, it's more creative, it's more people coming together and willing to give you as much information as you're willing to take
yes.
on, and they want to see you shine. You know what I mean? Just having that wanting to see, and here's the thing, brother. I don't think a lot of people get those experiences like you're getting now. Um, Up until this, because I'd love for you to give people tips on how they can go and seek those types of environments. What's your viewpoint on that?
Mm. Well, Mike, you're an excellent source for this. Excellent source. For those that don't know or haven't watched our earlier episodes, Mike a few years back said, "Bro, I got to get you on a podcast." Um, and he was actually talking about the things that he was referring to our conversations that we had had before, which is really all the community beacon is about. And he just wanted to do that. In so doing, he actually forged our relationship. He made it tighter. He made it stronger, whether he did it on purpose or not, because it forced us. It put us in a position where we need to speak even more. See, Mike and I would, whenever we speak as if it was yesterday, as if it was earlier this morning, as if we're just picking up from 5 minutes ago. That's how we talk. And so, uh, and how we got there or when we got there is a story all in itself because we did not start off right there. Out of all of the brothers that we started running with, him and I were probably more like this than we were like this for those first few moments that we had together. And then it grew into something that was much, much different. I didn't see this relationship in its fruition, um, you know, over a decade ago. So I would say this, Mike, just to answer your question for the sake of the audience, because I believe that you already got it inside of you. And it's something as small as a desire. And this is what, Mike has put out there, your intention, your focus, your time. So number one, if your focus is that you want to be inside of an environment that is very enriching, that you can throw a rock and you're going to find an answer. That's what we're talking about. You know, I'm having trouble with my marriage. Throw a rock, there's an answer. I'm having trouble with communicating with God. Throw a rock, there's an answer. I'm having trouble with increasing my finances. Throw a rock, there's an answer. In order to do that, first, there's got to be some type of focus, which is going to include meditation. It's going to include prayer. It's going to include study. It's going to include all of those personal self developmental tools you want to start taking in. You want to start creating that. You want to get into podcast or whatever it is, but you have to start drawing close these things. There's a scripture that says, draw nigh unto God and he will draw nigh unto you. So if you want to get in contact with God, you got to start bringing yourself closer. If you want to get warm if you want to get warm on a Texas night, you got to get close to the fire, right? You know, in the middle of Arizona when it's 110 degrees in the day and it's 20 degrees in the desert at night, you got to draw nigh into the fire. So get yourself closer to the fire. And then what's going to end up happening is you're going to increase your intention. Your intensity of your intention will increase. You're going to start to put your hands out on purpose because your fingers are cold. Take them out of your pockets, out of your comfort zone, and put them close to the fire. Your intention is, I need to get closer because the closer I get, the warmer I will get. So when you start to draw in all these different, these self-modifying behaviors, then you're going to become intentional in reaching what you desire. Now I'm looking for Mike. I don't know who Mike is, but I know that I need Mike. How do I know? Because I read about Mike. I heard Mike on a podcast. I'm praying to meet up with Mike, just like Cornelius. He prayed to God. His intention was he read the scriptures, he said his prayers, he offered his alms, and then he prayed to God to the point where an angel was dispatched to Cornelius. And he said, Cornelius, your prayers have come up as a memorial before God. Now go and find this man named Peter. Go and find him. This is where he is. This is the street he's on. And he went. See, there's the intensity. When your focus gets sharp, your intensity gets sharp and your intention becomes known. It's made known because you realize what you need to be focusing on. So now comes the time. Now, and
Uh-oh.
either, am I still there?
Yeah, you're back. You're back now.
So now it's those three things that Mike, you just laid out. Now your time. What am I doing with my time? My time is, and I'm gonna say it just the way he said it. My time is I'm going to get fit, I'm gonna stay fit, I'm gonna be fit. In other words, my time is going to be exhausted in getting to whatever I need to be at, wherever I need to be at. I need to get there. I need to get rid of distractions, focus. I need to be intentional, and I need to spend my time in this. Remember, whatever you're trying to be enriched in may not happen immediately. So you're going to have to wade in that water for quite some time because you're learning, and it's a process. You're getting rid of things all the time,
Yeah.
thoughts, desires, in some cases, people, person, places, and events. You're getting rid of all those things. You got to get rid of the baggage. And then you have to stay there long enough for your change to actually happen. If you're not staying in that enriched environment, it was a waste of time. You got to stay in that environment until the change. Job said, all the days will I wait until my change comes. You have to wait and work in the enriched environment, and you're going to have highs and you're going to have lows. You're going to have successes, you're going to have failures, but you got to stay there. Some people, they're going to boom, pop up, and they're going to be like, hey, don't look at that. Don't get distracted with what other people are doing. You got to stay the course for you.
Yep.
That's it. And then after that, you just have to become that. And that's a process. That's the change. Become what it is that you are enriched in. You have to become it. You get into that water until you become that water. You have to become it. You have to move with it. No longer do the waves take you down because you have become your environment. Now you're not distracted by the waves of life or the turbulence of whatever it is. You become it. And because of that, you become a master of your craft.
Couldn't say it any better, brother. I don't even want to. I don't even want to. This is This has been impactful, and guys, if you haven't checked out a lot of the conversations that we have had in the past month, it's January 19th now. It's Friday, January 19th. This episode will air at around 6:30 this evening. Go back and really start to delve into what the conversation that we've been having, because it's like the brother's just taking what's out of my mind and he's putting it into words and communicating it. It's just that simple. And that's what happens when you just start to become something, and you're on these different vibration this vibration. And we've spoken recently in regards to there being a separation. And there's a huge separation that I'm seeing, observing. I'm observing a huge separation, and a lot of those, and you can, and I'm starting to tell just by a conversation, and it's just that quick, and it's not a judgment thing. Everyone's on their own path, so God, God bless you all. However, there's a separation happening. This is 2024, and we're starting to see that. Other than that, guys, listen, I definitely appreciate you all for checking it in. I appreciate the brother for taking the time out. I know he's on the movies in the conference, and I don't want to impede much more on his time than we already have. And appreciate him taking the time out to do this episode again, because like I said, he said busy. We're busy being productive. We're
Thank you, bro.
busy. We are busy being productive. So
God, I
I
love that
appreciate.
man over there. That is a good man right there. Oh man, he's always feeding my soul. He feeds me. He feeds. Thank you, Mike, for all that you've
Likewise,
done,
brother.
man. Gosh, man, I thank God that I met you. I
Yeah.
thank God that I met you, and that we have continued this relationship. I thank God for your efforts. I thank God for your consistency. I mean, you are a consistent man. I'm learning from you all the time. I'm a very inconsistent man. Passion driven.
Don't don't
Like
say that, brother.
popcorn, man. Like popcorn. You just gotta heat me up, and I'm ready to go. But if I ain't hot, man, sometimes I'm just like the corn laying in the bag. But Mike,
And here it's iron sharpening iron. Because I'm gonna tell you a real quick distinction the brother just made. The brother said he's passionate, the passionate, and then I get the compassionate from him. Just the compassion he has and the empathy that he has, and it just all molds together. This make us better people. You know what I mean? We came together in the group where it talks about becoming better men, and I tell people all the time, if I don't get anything from the group masonry, I've already gotten enough with just being put together with the brothers that I was put together with, and this is one of the brothers as well. So
amen,
man, we appreciate you all, guys. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, engage. There are things happening. We're putting it out here. We have these conversations so that you can pick up on what's being dropped. And so, other than that, brother, any parting words for our viewers?
get fit, stay fit,
Get fit.
be fit.
Be fit. All right, man. We appreciate you all, and we will see you next week.